Fantastico, fantastico. Well, everybody, thank you very much for your patience. I really appreciate it. Little technical difficulties, getting off to a little rough start here, but that's all good. So, all right. So, who has ever seen this table before? Who's seen the battle table? Nobody? Okay, cool. So basically, this is our battle grid. So this is where in AltSpace you guys can play D&D here. This is where the dungeon master stands over here. This is where the player stands, and you'll see as you kind of move around the table, there's these kind of floating web pages that follow you around wherever you go. So those two pages.
Cool. Should there be a model at the table?
I don't see anything.
Yeah,
I don't see anything. I just see like a white outline.
I do. I've got a big table here. Maybe it hasn't loaded in
Well,
things.
there's
I think
nothing
it's
there.
loaded now. It's loaded now.
Cool.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
like
very-
big. It's like a big table with models and stuff like.
Maybe just give it a sec for it to load in. It's a pretty big thing. It's using 3JS. It's basically like a web page. This is like a big 3D web page that we're all staring at. So this is how you play. You come to this table, and this is where you play in AltSpace. So I'm not going to go over too much of the table right now. I just kind of wanted to give you guys the 101 view of playing Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. So we don't need to do too much stuff with the table at this point. Actually, I'm going to reset the table.
The Dungeon Dragon table. Yeah.
Yeah, table's not for me.
All right, I'll just reset the table. So basically, the point that we were at was just talking about the dice. Okay, so everybody's used to the dice that they have at home. They have their six-sided dice, right? So that's a six-sided die. Everybody knows it's got six sides. It starts at 1 and ends at 6. Fantastic. So now the other thing you have in Dungeons and Dragons are all types of dice, right? So if you guys look at the top of the table, hopefully you're seeing about 7 different dice that are up there. Okay. So basically you have a four-sided die. So it kind of looks like like a pyramid. And the way that you read this is the top number. That's on the top. That's the number you're rolling. So that's for there's a little known spell that you guys might have heard called Magic Missile. So you stick your hands out and you shoot missiles out of your fingers if you're a magic user, and each one of those missiles does 1 to 4 damage, and you get to roll. The higher level you are, the more of these four-sided dice you get to roll, which is super fun. And it's great, and they add up quick. Okay, so there's the four-sided die, the six-sided die, there's the eight-sided die. So usually the eight-sided die is for kind of determining your hit points for every level that you're at. Everybody kind of starts at first level, and then typically they'll roll an eight-sided die, and then that's how many hit points you'll have to start out with. So the next one up is a 10-sided die, and it goes from 0 to 9. And so the 0 is actually a 10. And you can also roll 2 of these dice together. They're usually colored different.
Can you guys hear me?
Can kind of... Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
They're, the 10-sided dice are usually colored a little bit differently. So you can actually roll from 1 to 100 with these 2 dice. So like this would be like 54 or 55 or whatever. So that's actually pretty easy. Okay, so that's a 10-sided die. Then there's a 12-sided die. And then the illustrious 20-sided die. Does everybody see a bunch of 20-sided dice flying around there?
Yes.
All right, so this is the almighty, most often rolled D20. So this dice you roll for seeing if you're going to hit somebody, seeing if whatever you're trying to pull off you can make. You're rolling to make saving throws. So if like a dragon comes at you and breathes fire at you, if you roll a nice high number, you get out of the way, kinda. So fun stuff like this. So and then another thing you do, you're actually rolling for initiative. That's probably one of the first things you do. So at the start of a battle, everybody rolls a d20, and whoever has kind of like the highest number gets to go first. If the monsters roll higher numbers, then the monster gets to attack first. So you want to get a nice. Basically, you always want to roll a nice high number on a d20, and if you ever roll a 20 on a d20, that's called a
Natural 20, yay.
Crit.
natural 20. Natural 20. So everybody wants to get a natural 20. Depending on how awesome the dungeon master is, you'll get like critical hits, or you'll lop off somebody's arm, or some really good things will happen. Even if you're sometimes even if you're like the lowliest character in the world and you're fighting a god and you roll a 20, you actually like can hit him, which is usually not within the realm of possibilities, but everything can happen. Anything can happen when you roll a d20. So that is fantastic. Go d20. Okay. So basically, Dungeons and Dragons has been around for a long time. I think it's having its 40th anniversary this year. Back in the 80s, people used to think that you worshipped, you're a devil worshiper when you were playing Dungeons and Dragons. When I was a kid back then, I had to have a talk with my mom. My friend that wanted me to play, we had to sit down and have a chat, and we had to let her know that I was not a Satan worshiper, and that we weren't worshiping Satan, and so I've done pretty well ever since. Pretty well. Okay, so and then I'm not sure if anybody read the description of the event today, but there was a little thing called the Player's Handbook. Is there anybody here that has a Player's Handbook?
No.
Okay.
Don't even know what it is.
I heard
I
me.
do.
Okay, so basically, when you're like, if you wanted to just start playing D&D and you're a player, then you'd want to go and pick up a player's handbook. Like I have one here. I went to my local gaming store. It was about 50 Canadian dollars to get this book, and it has all of the general rules and all of the stuff that you, as a player, that's like you're learning what all of the different types of characters you can be. You're learning like how to play the game.
Hey, do you
stuff
guys
like
have
that.
the leap motion or haptic glyphs or something?
So the other thing that, so I mean, you may or may not be able to get a player's handbook PDF file from the World Wide Web. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that. So if you do manage to get a hold of the player's guide, the player's guide. Sorry. If you do manage to get hold of the player's handbook, then that's probably the best way for you to start learning D&D. Just give that kind of a skim through. It's kind of hard to read the whole thing because it's a couple hundred pages, but the best part of it's got awesome pictures in it, and it kind of shows you all the different characters you can be. We'll go over that in a little bit.
Okay.
I've been holding my hand up, but it doesn't matter. Can I ask a question? Are there like there's different editions of the game, isn't there? Like 3.5. Is there like any major difference? Are there different handbooks for each set, or is that kind of universal?
Absolutely. Yeah. Great question. So, like back when I was a whippersnapper, we played what was called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So that was before that it was just basic D&D. So we played Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. There were certain books for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I think that's maybe version 2 or something like that. So since then there's been version 3, version 4, and version 4. So the 5th edition is the latest edition that's out, and that's kind of what. Not that you have to specifically pick the one over the other, but if you are getting together with a bunch of people, like when we're in Altspace here, we're typically playing the brand new rule set. We're playing the 5th edition rules. The books, all the 3 books that I have, they're all the 5th edition, and basically the books are going to be different between the 3, so you kind of all want to have the same books. But I mean, I guess at the core, everything's kind of the same with the latest 5th edition books. They really, I don't know. To me, it seems like they kind of simplified everything. It's a lot easier to play. It's a lot more fun for the character. Even a very basic character gets a whole bunch of skills. Fighters can make little magic. Fighters can even have little magic spells and stuff like that. So it's pretty fun, and you get lots of bonuses for everything. So that's a pretty fun thing. Was there any other questions about anything that we've talked about up to this point?
I'm ready to play.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just go over a couple more things, and we'll get rolling some dice here pretty soon. Okay. So basically, the golden rule when you're playing D&D is if the dungeon master ever says, "Are you sure?" Always change whatever you just said and do something different.
Absolutely.
That's a very good first rule to know in the game.
That's the
Like,
golden
I wish
rule.
I had been told that. I wish I had been told that when I first started playing.
Yeah, you guys have all just earned your first experience points with this classic golden rule. And take notes. Write that on the cover of your player's handbook, and
But isn't
you'll be
one of the other rules
following up
though
in
is
no time.
also Isn't it like fun is the best? Fun trumps. I don't know. I'm all
Donald
right
Trump?
right
Fun.
now.
Fun. Oh, all right. Let's try to keep this not political. And we do want to have some fun here. Absolutely. Okay. Now let's take a step back and let's just head over to the campfire, and I'm gonna teach you guys a couple of other things that's really critical and quite important. But yeah, so please take a seat if you're to vibe. Please sit on a chair. And please don't stand in the middle of the fire. I want to stand in the middle of the fire. Thank you. Okay, so it was a dark and stormy night. I mean, that's how a lot of these stories start. Like just the dungeon master kind of telling you why all your characters are there. Your old friends, or the one we're gonna play later. Basically, you guys have all been in jail for.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Okay, so basically now the name of the game is role playing. Okay, so when you're playing a role here, just like Leonardo DiCaprio held up Kate Winslet in the Titanic. You're not Leonardo DiCaprio. You're actually playing the character, and you're holding up Kate Winslet's character. So you're the actor. You're not doing what you would do in this situation. You're doing what your character would do, and that's called role playing. So basically, that's the name of the game. When you're playing, you get your character sheet. We have some pre-made character sheets here that you can use, and it has a little bit of a backstory on the guy. So it'll say, hey, this guy's a super greedy guy, and he'll do anything to get jewels, right? So if you come across something where there's a jewel, basically you're not going to be smart about it. You're not going to say, oh, I want to look for these traps here. You're just going to go run up and try to steal the jewel out of the demon's eyeballs, because you don't care. You need to have that jewel, right? So you have to play your character, and that's kind of one of the fun things. And lately, there's a new thing that they have called inspiration points when you're playing the 5th edition. So what happens is, if you're playing your character and you play him or her really awesomely, then you're going to get an inspiration point. So what that means is, how we were talking about our D20 rolls from before. You're actually gonna use your inspiration. You get a chance to roll 2 D20 rolls. So whatever the highest number is, you get to pick. And then when you're doing that, you're having a much better chance of killing the monster, or grabbing the rope, or jumping from the ship. Go inspiration points. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo. Woo.
Yeah!
Let's hear
Yeah.
it. Let's
Thank you.
Let's hear it for
We
inspiration
were
points.
mesmerized. That's why we didn't clap. Woo!
Okay.
The sound of vibe remotes touching together. Can you hear that
Yes,
clicking?
clap.
That's my vibe remotes
Clap, clap,
breaking.
clap, 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 clap.
Oh
clap,
yes,
clap.
please.
That's the
We
most
don't want to
expensive
break.
applause you're gonna get.
Yeah. We don't want you to break any of your hardware. We want you to keep coming back and rolling those d20s. Okay, so just take it easy. Okay?
Is everybody here on a Vive, or are we split between Vive and Rift? I'm really curious.
Let's see if
Anyone
everybody
who can
that's
see a controller always survive.
yeah, if you can see the controller, you have Vives. It might
okay,
be
that's-
Gear VR users, or I'm just on my 2D mode on laptop, so you can just it's cross-platform. Okay, wait a second. I'm not in the welcome space. I'm DM Schmidt Tech right now. Let's keep to the focus here. Now then, so what the characters have when you get your character sheet is they're going to have a thing called your ability scores. So there's about 6 abilities that you have. Each character has. So it's basically they're called strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. Okay, so these are the main ability scores. So if you want to, if you look at your character sheet and you see he has a really high strength, hey, I want to be a fighter, or I want to be a barbarian, or I want to be a paladin, I want to be somebody that has a sword and tries to smash it into the goblins, right? So that's what strength is. Dexterity is kind of like your ability to manipulate. If you want to do that coin trick where you're twiddling the coin over top of the tops of your fingers, then that's dexterity. You being able to run quickly and jump over something, that's dexterity. So if you're a thief, you want to have a high dexterity, so you can be really awesome and do like pick somebody's pocket without them even feeling it or seeing it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now then, the other one's called Constitution. So that's the other ability score. That's like how kind of tough you are. That's how long you can run a marathon for. That's kind of like if you have a higher Constitution, you're getting extra bonus points for your hit points. So when you roll that D8, you're actually getting an extra maybe 2 points.
You're actually getting an extra maybe 2.
Okay. And Constitution. So if you're a fighter, you want to have a high Constitution too. Okay. So now there's Wisdom. So that's basically how aware you are, your intuition, your natural insight you have into things. That's your wisdom. So if you're a cleric, you want to have a high wisdom. So clerics like worship their god, and then they get healing spells. You want to have a cleric around, so once your fighter does get whacked by the goblin, the cleric can heal him with his or her wisdom being really high, getting extra spells that they can use and whatnot. Now the other one is intelligence, not to be confused with wisdom, but this is their intelligence, mental acuity, right? That's how, like, let's say you were chatting with the barkeeper and you had a nice long conversation with him, and then like the next adventure, like you didn't actually remember what he said, but if you have a high intelligence, you could roll to see, you could basically like have a photographic memory and try to remember what the innkeeper said. So you could roll for intelligence, and that would be a great thing. And then like magic users and wizards, they're going to have a high intelligence. They're going to be really wimpy and have low strength, but they're going to have a high intelligence. Because they have to memorize their spells without looking at the book, because there's no cheating when you're going to cast a spell. And the last one is charisma. Nobody really cares about charisma, so let's not even worry about that one. No, just joking. So that's basically like your like how confident you are and how eloquent you are and what kind of leadership skills you have. So if you're trying to get the whole bar to come and attack the ogre running down the street, if you're very convincing and you have your charm, you want to woo the crowd with your charisma. That's how you would do that. Yeah. Okay. So now then, does anybody have any question about the ability scores for Dungeons and Dragons?
How do you increase these scores?
Oh, fantastic question. Basically, what happens at the way we typically are playing in alt space is you're having a pre-made character, and those abilities are kind of set for you. If you want to be hardcore, you're rolling your own characters from scratch, and there's various different methods of doing that. And then it's very difficult to adjust these scores. It's almost something weirdly magical will have to happen to you. If you get like a ring of intelligence, it'll add 2 extra points to your intelligence score. So those would be some of the ways that you could increase the scores.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I don't know if you told the dungeon master every night before you go to bed you do like 100 push-ups or something, maybe your strength could go up over a year. I mean, I don't know. I think that that's a lot of determination.
Is that in the rule book?
That's in my rule book that I have here.
Fly?
If you want to buy this, it's I have it for sale. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, would you let that fly? How do you? I don't know. That's for the GM training, I guess.
Good question.
Yeah. So if you're the dungeon master, like you can have like a really serious rule stickler that's all he does or she does is just read the rule book, and they're just obsessed with everything being correct. Whereas I don't exactly know the 5th edition rules.
I'm getting
I know.
lag. Or not lag, but it's like skipping a lot.
Oh, okay. Or maybe I'll step out of the fire. I don't know if that'll help. Yeah. So if you have, it just depends on the dungeon master. We're just here in alt space, and I play. We play for 2 or 3 hours, and I just want everybody to have fun. So I'm not going out and trying to kill everybody. I don't know. Like if I might give you an inspiration point for coming up with the push-up routine every night, and then maybe I'd say after we've played 5 times, your strength goes up 1. Like it's no big deal. It sounds like a fun thing, so why not?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, ability scores. Okay, so basically, yeah. So I mean, like, what is there to do in D&D? When hey, it's your turn. What are you gonna do? Well, you can listen, sneak up on somebody, negotiate something, befriend somebody, attack, pick a lock, intimidate, jump, climb, cast a spell. There's all just when the DM says what would you like to do, then you have to use your role playing and use your brains to kind of come up with what you're going to be wanting to do. It's not just because you're playing a fighter doesn't mean you have to go and bash everybody's skull in. If you can see a way around a situation where you're able to just like walk around these bushes and get not have to kill 5 guys, then you're actually getting experience points for using your brain and being smart and playing doing your role playing. So
You can
okay,
pretty much
so
do
there's
anything, right? Like, or attempt it at least.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the sky's the limit. Whatever you can come up with your brain, then you can come up with it. I mean, it's role playing. So whatever you want to do, if you guys want to make a human pyramid and have a little guy jump off the top and get over the fence, then you'd probably have to roll a bunch of d20s to make sure that was working. But yeah.
So
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I mean anything's possible. This is just like that we're role playing, and this is just in the theater of our mind. So whatever you can kind of come up with, and whatever you want to do, that's the whole point of this is just to kind of hang out and have fun and exercise your brain muscles and get to roll some dice and kill some guys too. So that's kind of fun.